A bicycle? The bride's mother laughed so loudly that half the hotel entrance turned to look. My daughter is not marrying some broke delivery boy who shows up pedaling to his own wedding. The black groom stood there in a fitted charcoal suit, one hand still resting on the handlebars, rain on his sleeves, dignity still intact. Guests smirked, phones tilted upward. Security took a step closer. By the end of that ceremony hour, the woman mocking him would learn that the man on that bicycle was wealthier, more powerful, and more respected than anyone in her guest list. And the entire ballroom would go silent. 6 weeks earlier, Elijah Cole was riding that same bicycle through the old part of Riverton just before sunrise, wearing a navy maintenance jacket over a white t-shirt, a thermos of coffee in the front basket, and a legal envelope strapped beneath the seat. He could have driven. He owned 3 cars, a black electric sedan, a silver classic convertible he never touched, and an armored SUV his board insisted he use for late-night meetings. But on most mornings, Elijah rode his father's bicycle. It was old steel, repainted twice, the bell still chipped on one side, the leather grips replaced by hand. It had belonged to his father, Samuel Cole, who spent 27 years delivering prescriptions across Riverton on 2 wheels before his knees gave out and the city forgot his route. At 5:42 a.m., Elijah stopped outside a brick duplex on Mercer Street and left a white grocery bag on a porch swing. Inside were eggs, bread, soup, 2 inhalers, and an envelope holding exactly $380 in cash. No note. There never was. The bag was for Mrs. Donna Price, a widow with emphysema, whose son promised every month he would send something soon. Soon rarely came. Elijah rang the bell once and rode off before she could open the door. At 6:10, he reached Cole Community Kitchen, a non-profit breakfast hall in South Riverton that fed between 160 and 220 people every weekday. The volunteers knew him as Eli. "You getting married in 9 days," Mr. Ortega said, sliding a tray forward. "You should be resting." Elijah smiled. "This counts as peace." Mr. Ortega looked sideways at him. Or avoidance. Meanwhile, inside the Whitmore estate on the north side, Camille was standing in a sunroom larger than Elijah's childhood apartment, arguing with a florist over white roses that were apparently too creamy to photograph as expensive. Her husband, Richard Whitmore, sat silently at the table, pretending to read financial pages he was too anxious to process. Richard used to matter in Riverton banking circles. Used to. "Ava is making a mistake," she said, lifting a flower and tossing it down again. "That man is hiding something." Richard lowered the paper. "He's a lawyer." "That is not the point." Camille's jaw tightened. She did not say race. Women like Camille almost never did. Not directly. She said, "He is not from our world." Meanwhile, Ava was in a children's therapy room helping a 6-year-old relearn how to grip a marker after surgery. Her phone buzzed 4 times in her pocket. She ignored it until the child finished tracing a shaky blue circle. Camille, "We need to discuss the guest list again." Elijah, "Lunch tonight? I miss your face." Ava smiled at his text first. That was her small rebellion. That evening, they met at a modest soul food restaurant Elijah had helped reopen after a fire. "She wants to control the wedding," Ava said. Elijah nodded. That part was predictable. "No," he said, "I want to marry you. I just don't want our first hour as husband and wife shaped by your mother's fear." Ava reached across the table. "She doesn't get to define us." He held her hand. "She already thinks she can." Ava exhaled. "Then let her be wrong." At 10:14 p.m., after dinner, Elijah rode to a quiet warehouse office on Water Street where the top floor housed Cole Urban Holdings. From the outside, the building looked almost invisible. No gold lettering, no giant logo, no ego. His chief operating officer, Naomi Fields, waited in the conference room with 3 binders and a face that said she had already been disappointed twice that day. "You're late," she said. "I brought apology pie," Elijah replied. "We have a problem. Whitmore Capital is trying to force a last-minute position on the North Loop parcels." Elijah's gaze sharpened. "Richard Whitmore's firm?" "Through a shell group, sloppy one." Naomi watched his face. "You knew?" "Not until now." "You still marrying into this?" Elijah stood silent for a moment. Then he said, I'm marrying Ava, not the machinery around her. At midnight, Elijah reached his penthouse and found no peace there either. He loosened his tie and stopped before a framed photograph in the hallway. His father's favorite line sat beneath the frame. Walk light, carry weight. The next morning, Elijah was in municipal court at 8:03 a.m., sitting behind a housing rights attorney he funded quietly, watching an elderly tenant face eviction over $1,140 in disputed repair charges. When the hearing ended, Elijah stepped out before anyone noticed him and covered the woman's arrears through the legal fund, again anonymously. He could have announced it, he never did. Meanwhile, in a bridal suite 20 floors above the Grand Mercer Hotel ballroom, Camille was directing workers as if weddings were war and linens were casualties. The crystal goes left, left, she snapped. Ava entered just in time to see it. Mom, she said sharply, stop talking to people like that. Camille turned. I am ensuring standards. No, you're bleeding on everyone. Ava looked at the terrified assistant, then back at her mother. Perfection without dignity isn't perfection. For a second, Camille's mask slipped. 3 days before the wedding, Elijah visited Ruth at the assisted living center where she spent afternoons near the window. You sound tired, she said as soon as he sat down. I'm fine. You sound expensive, she corrected. Son, she said gently, some people need a stage before they reveal themselves. Let her. Climb 1. The city remembers. So did mothers. Meanwhile, Richard Whitmore sat alone in his office, staring at a loan extension email he knew he could not meet. When Naomi mentioned the North Loop parcels, he went cold. Richard understood then, with a dull wave of dread, that the family had been circling a man they did not understand at all. On the morning of the wedding, Riverton woke under thin rain and silver clouds. At 6:25 a.m., Elijah was already at the community kitchen helping unload milk crates because the regular driver's daughter was sick and no replacement had shown up. At 8:02, he stopped by Ruth's residence in full dress pants and shirt to let a home health aide pin his late father's tie clip onto his lapel. At 8:48, his best man, Andre Lewis, arrived with the black sedan and found Elijah wiping the bicycle frame with a soft cloth. Andre stared. Please tell me this is symbolic and you're not actually writing that to the Grand Mercer? I'm actually writing it. Elijah clipped the tie bar in place. That's usually when people tell the truth about themselves. Andre was quiet. Then he said, You're too calm. No, Elijah answered, I'm prepared. At 9:31, Elijah started pedaling north through downtown Riverton, suit pressed, shoes polished, bouquet box secured in the front basket. Drivers looked twice. Some laughed, some admired. One bus driver leaned out and yelled, That better be love, brother. At 9:52, 1 block from the Grand Mercer, he stopped for a little girl crying beside a dropped ice cream cone outside a bakery. Elijah pulled a 20 from his wallet, handed it to the clerk through the open window. Another cone, extra sprinkles. By 10:04, the first luxury cars were lining the hotel driveway. By 10:07, Camille Whitmore was at the front steps in pale blue silk, diamonds at her throat, checking arrivals like a customs officer for social status. At 10:09, she saw the bicycle and smiled the way people smile when cruelty has just handed them an audience. A bicycle? Camille said, stepping forward so nearby guests could hear every word. Please tell me you're not the entertainment. Elijah braked smoothly at the curb and stepped off without rushing. I'm here for the wedding, he said. Camille looked him up and down. Clearly. But where is the groom? A few guests chuckled. Elijah kept one hand on the handlebar. I am the groom. The chuckles died, then restarted sharper. The valet nearest the door looked away. The florist froze with a tray of white peonies in her arms. 2 bridesmaids on the stairs exchanged a look but said nothing. Public shame has a sound. It is not always yelling. Elijah's best man, Andre, came hurrying from the side entrance. Ma'am, enough. Camille turned on him. Do not lecture me at my daughter's wedding. Elijah spoke calmly. The bicycle belonged to my father. At that moment, Ava appeared at the top of the front staircase, half-dressed for the ceremony, veil pinned, bouquet not yet in hand. Mom, she called out, voice tight, what are you doing? Camille turned, but did not soften. Protecting you. A middle-aged housekeeper, exiting a service corridor, stopped dead when she heard it. Her name was Marisol Vega. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said carefully, "that man is a good man." Camille looked at her as if furniture had spoken. "Nobody asked you." Marisol swallowed, but she did not move. "I'm saying it anyway." Ava descended the stairs faster, lifting the front of her gown. "Elijah," she said, reaching him at last, "are you okay?" He looked at her, and for the first time, the tension in his face softened. Camille threw up both hands. "You see? He wants spectacle." Ava turned on her mother. "No, it revolves around your cruelty." That should have ended it. It didn't. She waved to the head of private security at the entrance. "Mr. Harlan, remove that bicycle and do not let this chaos enter my ballroom." Mr. Harlan hesitated. He recognized Elijah too. Not from gossip, from contracts. Then, before anyone expected it, she grabbed the bouquet box from the basket, popped it open, and held it high like evidence. Camille laughed again. He brought grocery store flowers to a luxury wedding. Ava's face changed. Not embarrassed, heartbroken. Because this was the point no daughter wants to reach. The point where denial dies. The point where you see your parent clearly and cannot unsee it. Marisol stepped in and gently took the flowers from Camille's hand. "They're beautiful," she said. Camille snapped, "Stay in your lane." Marisol met her eyes. "Respectfully, ma'am, dignity is everybody's lane." And up in the mezzanine, Richard Whitmore had just arrived from a side elevator in time to witness the exact moment his wife turned a wedding entrance into a public trial. He closed his eyes for 1 second. Richard stepped forward first. "Camille," he said, voice low and strained, "that's enough." She turned, furious. "Good, tell them this nonsense ends now." Richard looked at Elijah, then at the hotel manager, then at the security chief, all of whom had gone very still. His face lost color. "Do you have any idea who this man is?" he asked her. Camille laughed in disbelief. "Yes, he's the reason my daughter is standing on hotel steps watching her wedding collapse." Richard's answer came like a dropped stone. "No, he's the reason this hotel still operates." "Elijah Cole is founder and controlling partner of Cole Urban Holdings," he said. "His company owns the redevelopment trust behind the Mercer District, the East River Residences, the Harbor Garages, the North Loop Market parcels, and a direct stake in this hotel group." "He does not own a bicycle because he has nothing," Richard said. "He rode it because he could buy half this city and still remember where he came from." Elijah remained exactly where he had been standing. Just stillness. Just a man who had never needed the room's permission to matter. Camille's mouth parted. No words came. Camille tried to gather herself. No one told me." Elijah met her eyes. "You were told enough," said. "You just decided what counted." The hotel's general manager personally moved Elijah's bicycle into the grand lobby instead of some hidden storage room. He placed it beside the floral wall, dry and upright, like an heirloom. No one called it ridiculous now. Before the ceremony, Ava asked for 10 private minutes in a side parlor with her mother and father. "I need you to listen," Ava said. Camille tried first with embarrassment. "Sweetheart, I made a mistake." "No," Ava replied. "You made a choice. You did not mock Elijah because of a bicycle. You mocked him because you saw a black man arriving simply and assumed simplicity meant inferiority." Camille flinched. "I am not racist." Ava answered. "Then why did you only believe he was worthy after hearing what he owned?" When the ceremony finally started, the minister changed one line at Elijah's quiet request. Not "who gives this bride," but "who stands with this couple." The vows were simple. Ava spoke first. "I choose the man who is the same in every room." Elijah answered, "I choose the woman who never asked me to become smaller to be loved." After the kiss, applause filled the ballroom, but the real turning point came at the reception. Camille approached Elijah near the stage before the first dance. "I was wrong," she said. "I judged your worth by comfort, display, and my own fear." Elijah finally spoke. "Ava deserved better from you today." Camille nodded, crying harder now. "Yes," she whispered, "she did." He did not rescue her from that. He accepted the apology with one nod and nothing more. By dessert, Richard had also agreed to release internal emails to City Council documenting how shell investors tried stalling the affordable housing plan. Within 72 hours, Riverton's Ethics Bureau opened an inquiry into 3 land brokers. 2 resigned. 1 lender lost his municipal access. The cell phone footage spread fast. Not because Elijah's identity was shocking, because her contempt was. 1,000 strangers watched a wealthy mother laugh at a black groom for riding the bicycle that connected him to his father's memory. And the bouquet Camille had mocked. Ava had it pressed and framed. In the hallway of the new community clinic Elijah and Ava funded together on Mercer Street. Below it, a brass plaque read, "Value does not announce itself." 3 months after the wedding, Elijah appeared before City Council for the North Loop redevelopment approval hearing. Elijah stood at the lectern and said, "A city is not measured by what its wealth can display. It is measured by whose dignity survives the display." Outside the chamber, a reporter asked whether he felt vindicated after the wedding humiliation. Elijah answered, "Vindication is private. Responsibility is public." That line went everywhere. And on certain evenings, Elijah still rode through South Riverton at dusk with grocery bags in the basket and anonymous envelopes under the seat. Because some things do not change when a room finally learns your price. They change when you remember you were never for sale. 1 year later, the bicycle stood on display near the entrance by request of the students. Not as a joke, as a lesson. Elijah walked over, straightened the boy's tie, and asked, "You here for the apprenticeship award?" The boy nodded. "Didn't feel dressed for this place." Elijah smiled. "Neither was this bike. It got in anyway." Some people only recognize value after money explains it to them. That is the tragedy. Have you ever measured a person too quickly by clothes, accent, neighborhood, job, skin color, or the way they entered the room? Comment dignity below if you believe respect should come before status. Like this video, share it with someone who still thinks humility looks like weakness, and subscribe for more emotional justice stories where truth takes its time but never loses its way.